Hi, I'm Nancy Karulik and I write chapter books. This is my new series, Ms. Frogbottom's Field Trips. It's from Simon & Schuster. And I'm probably more excited about this series than I have been in a very long time because this series is different than anything I've ever done. You see, Ms. Frogbottom is a very interesting teacher. She has a magic map that takes her students all over the world. And while they're on those field trips, they run into a lot of monsters they never thought existed until they met them. What's really exciting about the Ms. Frogbottom's Field Trips books is that they're not just fiction. In every book, I have provided kids with Frogbottom facts. Those are nonfiction facts that talk about the geography and the culture of the countries that they're visiting. So they have fiction, nonfiction, and a whole lot of fun. But in addition to having nonfiction and fiction all in one place, there's a lot you can do in a classroom when you're reading Ms. Frogbottom's Field Trips. For instance, I Want My Mummy, book 1, takes place in ancient Egypt. There's a lot of talk in the books about hieroglyphics. You know, those pictures that ancient Egyptians drew to tell stories. It could be fun to have kids come up with their own hieroglyphics and write their own stories with their own picture words. In book 2, Long Time No See Monster, Oliver is tasked with being the editor of the class newspaper. A class newspaper is a wonderful activity. It promotes the ability for kids to work together. It also teaches them interviewing skills and works on their writing and grammar. And you might get to learn a little bit about the things that are going around your school because the kids will be very busy interviewing people that they are fond of. Another activity you might want to think about is to talk about the writing process. For me, the hardest part of any writing process is coming up with which point of view I'm going to use when writing a series. When I was writing Ms. Frogbottom's Field Trips, I knew I wanted to do it from a kid's point of view, preferably in the first person in present tense. The problem was I couldn't decide which kid to write from. So what I did was come up with a process in which each book is told from the point of view of a different child in the classroom. What's fun about that is it changes the way each story is told. That's something you and your kids can discuss. How would the book have been different if I'd chosen a different student or even Ms. Frogbottom? In fact, how would the book have been different if I decided to write it from a monster's point of view? Monsters are very cool. And I think it would be fun for kids to come up with monsters that they create on their own. The ones in Ms. Frogbottom's Field Trips are all based on tales told in different countries. And you know, I found something very interesting. In every country that I researched, there's always one monster that tends to eat children who don't behave. I suspect those were made up by desperate parents. But I think it could be interesting for kids to come up with their own hometown monsters. They could think about what the monster might look like, what the monster might eat, what its behavior was like, and why the monster was so angry. It could be a great drawing and writing experiment. Also, Miss Frogbottom is very stern, and she tells her kids they can never take pictures on any of their travels. Those field trips are meant to be experienced by their eyes, ears, nose, mouth, and touch. You know, the 5 senses. It might be fun for kids to go outside and use their 5 senses to think about the things that they see, feel, hear, touch, smell, and maybe taste if there's anything out there that's not poisonous. Then they can come back and write a story about their own field trip. Anyway, that's just a few ideas for how you can use Ms. Frogbottom's Field Trips in your classroom. Have a great time. Happy reading.